Hello everyone. Today I'm going to demonstrate how to change a tire with nothing but what's already in your vehicle from the factory. So mine, personally, I have a 2001 Ford F-150. Mine comes with this neat little kit that has your jack for propping the car up and your tire iron and your pry bar already. Mine comes under the seat, but I'm going to show you a couple other ways that it could come. So, mine comes under my passenger seat, but I'm going to try not to move too much. My spare tire is actually underneath right here. You unhook it from down there, it's held in by bolts, and it pops down from in there. I'm not going to use my spare tire because of the fact that it's just a lot of work. It takes quite a while to get it down from under there. And I'm just going to take mine off and put it back on because this is the same tire on a truck. Now, a lot of other times, like this is like a sports car. This is a Mustang. This has, and a lot of sedans also have this. This actually has it in the trunk under the paneling. So there's the spare tire. Those are actually not the same tires that are on it. In fact, those are temporary only. So the jack actually in here, I'm not going to take it out because it's not my car, it's my dad's car, but it's under this tire. This one even comes with some extra lug nuts you can see over here, just in case you lose some. But it's the same, it'll fit the same, but it's a spare. That one's a temporary. A lot of cars have temporary tires rather than a full-on extra tire. Trucks and SUVs sometimes come with full-on extra tires. I'm going to prop back up over here, and we're going to get to work on this. So, first step, at least if you're like me and you have hubs over your lug nuts, your first step is going to pry your plastic hub off of your lug nuts. So, this is my plastic hub. It just protects this part. It looks a little nicer. As you can see, it's kind of ugly under there. But it just protects these lug nuts and makes it look a little better. It's decorative, but it's just plastic. It just pries off. There's a little pry bar bit on this tire iron that is used for that. This is my jack. The jacking is going to be the longest part. So video will probably either cut or be sped up, but I'll show you how to use the jack once I get these loosened. So first off, very first step in changing a tire is to loosen just a little bit. It's going to be a pain, but while your tire is on the ground, you want to loosen every one of your bolts just a little bit, because if you lift it off the ground and you try to spin them, you're just going to spin the tire and nothing's going to come off. Okay, so now that we have every lug nut loose enough to where I can move it with my fingers, make sure you can do that, because if you have to pry it with the pry bar, your tire's just gonna spin when you take this thing up off the ground. So next we have to use the jack. Now these tiny jacks, I'll be honest, they kind of suck. They work, they do the job, but they take forever. A lot of the times you'll get a bigger one, and actually I'm gonna go get a bigger one right now that would be used in like a shop. For future reference, or if you were doing this anywhere that wasn't just the side of the road, this is a shop jack. This is much larger. You move this and this thing raises up. It's a lot faster and it holds a lot more weight than just a small bottle jack like this. This is a jack stand. This is something you just prop up under your already jacked up vehicle. This thing moves, it just holds weight is essentially all it's doing. Just so you don't have to hold jacks. And this is a solid piece, whereas this does have the opportunity to move down. So when you do things like this, once your vehicle is propped up, you probably don't want to be under it. It's not very smart. But so our next objective is to get the vehicle propped up on this jack, because I'm not going to be using these. This is a video to show you if you were on the side of the road what's already in your vehicle, or what should be in your vehicle. Oh, sorry if anyone is kind of motion sick. I'm going to attempt to make this as easy as possible. But so right now we are going to get under the car to find a good place to prop up this tire. Use this jack to prop up my vehicle so that this tire is lifted off the ground. So the best way to do this is to find a piece of your frame. So here is a big frame bar. You can tell it runs all the way down the end of the vehicle. It's a big piece of metal that holds weight. You don't want to put this on anything that will bend under the weight of the vehicle. So this big frame rail here is a really good place to start. It's probably the main place you should be jacking things up. You probably shouldn't be jacking things up anywhere else but on your frame. If you're in a pinch, an axle maybe, but primarily you're gonna want to use a frame rail. Okay, so actually I kind of lied. Now this is better lighting too, but I actually cannot fit. My jack is too short to fit on my frame rail, so actually I am going to have to put it under the axle. As you can see, I have put it under there, but I have not lifted it off the ground yet. I will not video that whole process because it takes too long to get that tiny little thing up off of the ground. There should be something I can use somewhere in my truck to actually move that better, but I don't know if someone before me took it out, or if, see that little rectangle inside the knob actually I should have something to spin that so I don't have to be under there spinning it. A lot of times cars do have that. I'm going to see if I can find mine, but I think the previous owner took it out and never put it back because I cannot find it. It should be in there though. I will look. Okay, I did find this. I did find this piece that I was talking about, the piece that lets me not be under it. So see this big long piece of metal right here? I'm gonna run my hand along it with the turn in it. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. I thought a lot of the times it is under the hood. I have seen other vehicles where it's under the hood. In mine, it's under the hood. It's just clipped in here like that with these metal clips. It's a little bit of a pain to record and do this and get this out here, but now that I have this, I can safely, big long piece of metal, now I can safely adjust my jack. So now I actually might record this, seeing as I can now do this from a safe distance and not be under my vehicle, which is very, very much not recommended. Okay, as you can see, don't try this part at home, but you can't really see it that well. So I'm actually going to show you. Now that my tire has cleared the ground, don't stick your hand under it like that. I just needed to do it for the sake of the video. I can start loosening my bolts. I'm going to cut the video here. We'll get back to that. Now that all my bolts are loose, I actually can just have them loosen up, but you should do this before you even take your tire off the ground. You should loosen them all to the point where you can take them off with your fingers, because like I said earlier, you will just spin the tire and it will be hilarious because you will spend all of your time, as long as it takes to jack this thing up off the ground, you will spend all of your time doing that just to make your tire spin, and then have to put it back on the ground, do the whole process over again. I can't stress this enough. I'm telling you this from experience. I've done this. I've been laughed at doing this. Spinning your tire, trying to take it off is not fun. People will laugh at you. You look dumb. I'm telling you this because I've done it more than once. You always remember to loosen your bolts before you lift your tire off the ground. You don't take them off. In fact, don't take them off, but loosen them until to the point where you can take them off with just your fingers. You will get crap all over your fingers. My hands are turning black. It happens. But this is if you're on the side of the road. I'm not using this super nice jack or nicer jack. I'm using the crappy one. You saw me do it. And now that our bolts are off, we can take our tire off of the vehicle easily. It just pops right off. And now we have our brakes exposed. Simple as that. It's not that hard. It is kind of a pain. It takes a little while. But now, wherever your spare tire is, whether it's under the trunk, let me move this out of the way. Now, wherever your spare tire is, whether it's under the trunk of your car, under the paneling of your trunk, whether it's under the actual underside of your car, or your truck, or your SUV, whatever you have, now it's taken off, and now all you have to do is take your spare tire, put it back on. I'm going to do this whole thing again. What I have to do is take your spare tire, put it on, loosen, tighten your bolts back up. You're good. You're good to go. So here we go. I'm not going to actually take my spare tire off because that's kind of useless at this point, but I am just going to put my tire back on. I'll show you the order to do it in. There's a special trick you should probably use when you're putting your tire on. So we're just going to lift our tire off the ground. It's not super heavy, but it's not super light either. Going to put our tire in. And now we're going to begin putting our bolts back on the tire. Do not tighten them all the way yet. Just put them on, hand tighten them, or you can move them with your fingers still. Get them all on there, and then there is a certain order you should go in when tightening your bolts back on. Pardon me, I do have kind of a cold. It is a little chilly out here. So now that these are almost all back on, I'm going to show you the steps to repairing or putting your tire back on. So now that these are on, all of them are just hand tight. They're not super tight. I can move them with my fingers. It's how you want it for now. Now we're going to lower our tire back onto the ground. Let's get to that. When lowering your tire back onto the ground, you want to be the same way. You want to be far away from it. You don't want to be near it. You don't want the truck to drop on you or your car to drop on you. Whatever it is that you have, you don't want it to drop on you. We're just going to use the same technique, and we're going to lower it slowly back onto the ground so we can pull our jack out from under the vehicle. If you have one of these handy little poles, which you should, you can actually use this to pull it back out. That way you don't even have to get under it. You'll probably have to get under it to put it under. But now it looks like our jack is movable. I lost it. Hold on. I'm going to pull it back out, or I'm just going to grab it because my vehicle is in park as it should be. Now we can get to retightening our tire lug nuts back on. Now that our vehicle is back on the ground, there is a certain pattern you are supposed to go in depending on what kind of bolts you have. So if you have 4 bolts, if you have 4 instead of 5, I have 5, so I'm going to show you how to do that. But if you have 4, you need to do the opposite 2. So you need to do this, and this goes for everything. For 5, it's a star pattern. For 6, you do the opposites every time. You crisscross them. 5 is the tricky one, so luckily I will be able to show you that. 4, you do your 1, and then there will be one across from it, opposite. You do that one, and then you do the same with the other 2. For 6, you are going to do the same idea. You're going to do the opposites diagonally. For 5, if you remember how to draw an easy star from like elementary school, or at least I was taught this, you make a star pattern. So we're going to go top, down to this bottom left one, up to the top right, across to the left, and then back lastly to the bottom right one. You're going to make a star pattern. So it's going to go like that. Because this way your bolts all get tightened evenly and you won't have problems with them being uneven. It's safer to do it this way. It's the proper way to do it. Now you don't have to get these super tight, but you do want them tight enough to where you can't move them at all with your finger. I apparently didn't make these that tight with my fingers, which is okay. They don't have to be super tight with your fingers, but in fact, actually, I'm going to take my little extension off because it'll make it easier. I'll be able to go in full circles. Like I said, we're going to start with our top, tighten it so I can just snug, not super tight, just snug it until you can't put that much pressure on it, and then you're good. And we'll go here to our next one. Let me tighten it with my fingers all the way first, that way I don't have to use this as much. And we're going to get it snug. Up to this one, snug. Not too tight, because you want to be able to eat almost decently easily with the bar, undo it, because you don't want them to be too tight, but you do want them to be snug. I'm going to say snug a lot, but it's important. Snug. You don't want them to be you want to be able to take them off. If you have a tire and your bolts are too tight to the point where you can't take them off, that's a very unfortunate problem for you. But now our tire bolts are all snug on there. I can put on my hubcap. These are kind of a pain, but they're plastic. You just kind of slap them on, and then you would be done. Your new tire would be on here. You wouldn't have a flat or a destroyed tire, or whatever problem you have. You have a new one, and you've put it on properly, safely, and properly. And now you don't have a problem anymore. Now you can keep on down the road. A lot of the time, I will add this. A lot of the time, your temporary tires, you should pay attention, because with smaller sedan type tires, temporary ones, a lot of the time those can only go so fast. They're only allowed to rotate so quickly. They will have it posted. You will want to read the warning label if it is on your tire. For these, my tire under my truck is the same exact tire as this one. It's the same. It's a spare. But your temporary tires, or so some people will call a donut tire, a lot of the times have restrictions on how fast they can go. These ones do not, so you wouldn't have to worry about that. But that's it. You now have changed your tire, and you're all ready to go down the road.